Range of the shell is what distance?
If I was to guess, probably at least a mile.
Okay. Did you investigate to see if any of the houses within the mile were damaged by all the shots?
No, sir.
Why not?
We didn't have any complaints. That would have taken even more time to try to find bullet holes in houses, hundreds of feet away, hundreds.
How many rounds were dispensed?
I'm not sure.
How many rounds were you told?
Objection. Objection here, so it's a stake.
Your Honor, may I approach to the map? It's in front of the witness, Your Honor. Your Honor, may I use the tripod again for the benefit of the...
It's not mine to give permission for. I'll get the exhibit, yes, sir.
This is Ms. Mills.
Sir?
Sorry, is that yours?
Oh, no, I thought it was y'all's.
It is. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Is that okay, Mr. Frank?
Earlier, you spent quite a bit of time out here in the front depicting locations of where you were looking. You pointed out where my house is over here, and the area right in here you've got marked is, you've got some spots here. I guess that's these are just 648, 653, 590. Those are the addresses of the homes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. 444. Okay. With the shooter, where would you say he was, or do you have any knowledge of where the shooter?
I'm going to object.
I'm sorry, based on where the shells found, which would be a good indication where the shooter would have been.
Objection to the testimony, Mr. Parsons, Your Honor.
Objection to be sustained.
Can I ask
Take a
where-
question to the witness.
You found shell casings at the scene.
Yes.
Can you identify where you found them?
I'll have to get on point. I can't see it from here. Okay.
Is it a laser point?
Right in this area right here.
Okay. Do y'all have a stick pin, push pin? This is a state's exhibit. It'd be nice to be able to put a mark on there to maybe let the witness take a pen and mark it. Would that be permissible to the state?
Do whatever you want to, Mr. Parsons, your case.
And please just make a little circle there, just darken in so it's an identifiable mark where the shells are found.
General area right here.
Now, hang tight for just a second. I've got a couple more questions. You did an investigation, you said, 3 days later, and did you not, in fact, make a video?
Yes.
You did. Were you operating the camera?
Yes.
Okay. And so you spent a lot of time doing that, and that probably took up a lot of the 3 hours, but while you were there, did you identify anything such as blood on the ground from a dog, any other physical evidence that would indicate that a dog was even there? Nothing. So right here is where the shells were found.
In that area, yes.
Okay. And of course, it's hearsay for you to testify as to what the witnesses told you that they saw, so we can't get into that. We're limited. But does any other physical evidence that you saw out here that you recorded or documented that day related to this case?
I found 5 shell casings in that area. That's it.
That's it. Okay. And you talked about a ditch. Would that be this blue line?
Yes.
All right. Visually, if you walked up to that ditch, how wide would it be?
It's probably maybe, when I saw it 2 years ago, it was about, I would guess, maybe 2 foot at the most.
Okay. Not very wide.
No, it's a ditch.
And how deep was it?
Well, I don't recall how deep. Just know it's about that wide.
But not very deep, just basically a depression where water flows.
That shows it as a stream.
Well, a stream would indicate constant flowing water.
That'll make the sign. Yeah. Forward.
So, when testimony was given earlier about a dog jumping a ditch, it's really not a jump, it's maybe just a little low spot in the ground. It's a small, we're talking about a little bitty small low spot in the ground where the water, basically where the water's channeled flow when it overflows the pond. Is that what you observed as a small overflow drain for the pond?
That's what I would consider the ditch.
And when you were there, you looked in this direction. You took video where you looked in this direction and this direction. And when you were panning the camera looking over here, let's just say, I won't touch it, but right here, right in this area, right here, this is a house. This would be what?
That's a shed.
That's a shed. Okay. Right. If in fact I was right there, did you ever go up there to look to see if there was a hole in the ground from where I shot at the ground?
Yeah, actually I did, yes. I was looking for a shell casing too.
Did you find one?
No.
And looking this way, just a shallow slight incline. The elevation from here to there, how high would you say it would probably rise?
You can estimate that. There's a rise there. There's a hill.
Was it a hill? Or was it a rise? Maybe it was about this tall from 450 feet away.
I call it a hill.
You call it a hill. Would you call it Rocky Mountains hills or Smoky Mountains hills?
I'm from Seattle. And we have mountains. Those are hills.
Mount Baker? I live in Whidbey Island myself, I'm familiar. I'd like to offer you a push pin today, sir, if you can push pin your shell casings, and we'll have it, okay? Let the record show that Investigator Nessie has used a purple push pin to identify where the shell casings were found. So from there to there, estimate, if you're looking straight ahead, would the level of the ground be at eye level, or is it going to be like way up there?
It's not eye level.
Is it lower than eye level?
It's a hill.
You call that a creek, and we're talking about a little bit of depression like that. A ditch. And the emphasis is that this is some kind of a big thing. We're talking about a slight gradual increase. Not something you have to put in the four-wheel drive to climb. Because actually, didn't the officers drive up there with their cars?
I didn't.
We're talking about something that's... Okay. And again, how many shell casings were found? 5. And how long did you look for those shell casings?
2 to 3 hours.
Before it was 3 to 4 hours. Is it 2 to 3?
2 to 3 to 4.
It's a big
It
spread.
was a long time, I'm not sure exactly, it was a long time. That's a large area to try to cover with a metal detector.
And you made no attempt to look at any of the buildings in the area to see if they were impacted?
No.
And again, you spent how long looking for Brandy?
Your Honor, we can be here for days and days if the same question is asked 6 times.
I just wanted to confirm,
I object.
verify it, that it's
There's
not...
a record, you have a record, she has a record.
If that's a objection, if I ask and answer the objection, piece of time.
Wouldn't it appear that you're more concerned about finding shell cases than you were finding my dog? Isn't that a true fact?
No, sir, if you hadn't hit the dog in the first place, we wouldn't have this problem.
Objection, Your Honor. Cause for speculation.
Objection, Bill. You asked the question.
He's stipulating the facts. He has no clue as to if I hit anything. He has no basis for that statement.
Just asking a question. Don't object. Say, why would you say something?
Officer Nessie, are you a friend of Barry Laxton or Nick King?
Never met him before in my life until that. Actually, Mr. King was a few days later, and Mr. Laxton, I met him first time at the hearing.
And at the beginning of your examination by the district attorney, you were asked if you were a member of the Good Old Boy Network, and you said no. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So since you were able to identify and have an understanding of what that means, please explain for the jury, please define the Good Old Boy Network as you understand it.
Actually, I have no idea what he's talking about, but I know I'm not a member of it.
Well, how would you know you're not a member if you can't define it?
I'm a member of AARP, but I know I'm not a member of the Good Old Boy.
You know you're not a member, but you can't define it. Could it be that you are a member and that it's called job security? You were the one that went to the grand jury, weren't you?
Yes.
And at the behest of the district attorney's office, sought to have an indictment of kidnapping as opposed to the original charges from a year earlier. Charges that y'all had over a year to determine if there was fact. Of course, I know you're so busy with burglaries and everything that you don't have time to go out and follow up and do other investigation, but you were able to determine somehow or another through the course of a discussion with the DA's office that there was a kidnapping we needed to pursue now. Were you aware of the fact that I had presented to the grand jury that same day that these charges were that you presented?
I had heard you try to present something.
Tried?
Try.
Did.
Okay.
And then you went into the grand jury with the kidnapping charges, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further. Please, I would like to reserve the right to recall this witness.
Just go, I'm just getting late, easy to go. You testified earlier that you heard Mr. Parsons confess to a kidnapping in another court. And did you hear Mr. Parsons say, "I committed a kidnapping"?
No, he didn't use those words.
Did you hear him testify to those elements which you've been led to believe are a kidnapping?
Yes.
Now, you also testified in response to his questions about the missing dog, or wolf, whatever this creature is. When you went out to look for the wolf that night, who said they knew where it was?
Mr. Parsons.
Would you have any idea where the wolf's corpse lay other than what Mr. Parsons could have told you or shown you? Did Mr. Parsons find the wolf when he was looking for it that night?
No.
Did he cooperate with you in allowing you to go up to the house where the other wolves were to see if it might be?
Objection,
there?
Your Honor. We're looking for a dog in a field. Why would he want to go to a house? That's what they're after, is a fishing expedition here.
Court will allow the question.
Did Mr. Parsons express any reluctance to you for you to continue the search up at his house?
We asked for a consent to search, and he made sure that it was specifically geared toward his field, finding the dog and getting the pistol back. He was not opinion against us searching his residence.
That's all.
You never asked to go to my house, did you? You were recorded, so be careful.
No, I didn't ask, no. Officer
Thank you.
Walls.
Sir?
Officer Walls did. He was the one who filled the consent.
Officer Walls asked me to go to my house?
He asked to search for get the pistol.
Did he ask to go to my house? That's what the comment was, is that there's a situation where Parsons doesn't want you to go to the house. Did Officer Walls ask to go to my house?
She asked to get the pistol, and our understanding the pistol was at your house.
Yes or no?
I believe he did, yes.
You believe, you don't know for a fact.
I'm inferring that he did because he wanted to get the
Don't
gun.
infer, tell the truth.
And the gun was, in our thoughts, was at your house.
Isn't it a... Come on now. Isn't it a fact that you didn't care to go to the house? You made the statement, we don't want to go to the house. Or Walls made the statement. If we get to play the tape, the jury will know one way or the other. Walls made the statement, did he not? We don't want to go to your house, we just want to go look for the dog. And then I said, then you won't mind changing your thing here from searching the property to searching the field for the dog. There's too many cases where people drop drugs in people's property and do other things. That doesn't happen in Tipton County, I'm sure, but it's in the news all the time where officers set people up. False prosecution, false charges. It happens. Regarding the claim that the dog wasn't there, I'm looking for the dog out there with you folks. But before that, I was taken to jail and transported back and forth, took over a couple of hours. Isn't it a fact that someone could have gone in there and moved my dog to hide the evidence?
I believe the only person who knew where the dog was you. You have...
How do you know?
How many acres that is out there? It's a lot.
How do you know? How do you know that Laxton and King didn't, or someone else, come up as I was carrying her away, which is still broad daylight, and see where I laid her? Why would I move my dog? Why would I not want to show you my dog? That's the whole thing. I'm trying to get you to see my dog, because then you'll see the wounds are in the back. That's my get out of jail free card, sir. Why would I try to hide my dog?
You let the dog where it lied.
Sir? Sir, if I'd have left it on that property, they could have confiscated her and taken her away. Again, wouldn't it make sense for me to preserve my dog, because that proves she was shot in the back, supports my statements? Because obviously there was no intention on your part of taking it, and you testified. You never recorded or documented any way, shape, or form my statement. Correct? You have no statement on file for me, even though you had testified here today. But I tried to talk to you about it. You testified...
At the scene, or where?
Sir?
We're talking about at the scene?
At the scene. You testified here earlier. We can go back to it. I've got it marked. We can go back if you like.
I recorded your conversation when you talked about what had happened. I said that.
It wasn't not true you were informed that... Well, you mentioned bullets whizzing past my head, so you were told about that. Isn't that a crime for somebody to be shooting at you?
Based on the evidence, and there was enough probable cause to determine that.
Bullets flying past you, a statement made like that is not probable cause?
No.
What did you have with Laxton and King other than statements?
We had one corroborating the other statement.
What if they're both lying?
They're not.
How do you know?
They don't have a reason to lie.
How do you know? No reason to lie. If they've committed a crime, no reason to lie? How do you know they weren't lying? Isn't it true that you don't know if they were telling the truth or lying? Isn't that the fact?
They're telling the truth.
How do you know?
Based on their statements and the recorded conversations.
That could all be a lie, could it not?
For me,
From them. Could they not tell you lies?
it's on tape with you.
Is that a problem, lying on tape?
I guess I'm confused. I don't know what you're saying.
Isn't it a fact that they can lie to you and you believe it?
People could lie, but whether I believe it is based it on the facts.
What physical evidence did you have to support that a dog charged anybody?
There was a dead dog or wolf dog somewhere, so I assume there was some truth to that. And the dog was carried off by him, hidden. And I had two other people who said they saw one said he was attacked by the dog, and the other one said he saw it.
Again, I'll ask the question, what physical evidence did you have to support a claim that my dog charged them?
Physical evidence?
That was the question.
No physical evidence.
No physical evidence, nothing to support it. Just two guys' statements who, if they broke the law, because there's two against one, you're going to automatically, is that the way, do you have your policy manual with you?
No, sir, I don't have.
Does the policy manual stipulate if there's two against one, the two always win?
No, sir, it doesn't.
But you didn't take the time you did to look for the shell case and look for the dog. You didn't take the time to interview me, a prime witness. You didn't take the time to interview my wife, did you?
No.
So how can you call that a thorough investigation?
According to Sergeant Walls, he already interviewed your wife. She said
You're
she
the-
didn't see anything.
Pardon me?
According to Sergeant Walls, he said that he talked to your wife and she said she didn't see anything.
Do you have that documented?
That's what Sergeant Walls told me.
Do you have it documented anywhere?
I don't know.
Okay. Nothing recorded. The only thing in your record are statements from Walls and Kings. The two accusers, how convenient. You omit the key evidence, the person who has the dog who's wanting to tell you what happened. The man calls you, I called you, come see the dog.
Objection to grounds it's asked and answered, it's beyond the scope of redirect. It's
Objection to be sustained. You're limited on redirect to whatever scope was asked on the recross is limited to the scope of examination of the redirect. Is that all of this witness?
Just one moment, please, sir. I'm trying to reconfirm what the redirect was, so I'm not going out of the bounds of the... You testified that you went back and talked to Nick King 3 days later, correct? Videotaped him? Correct?
Days later, maybe the next day.
Sir?
Maybe the next day or the day after. I don't know if it was 3 days later.
You said 3 days earlier. Which is it? 1 day or 3 days?
I don't recall which day. I know I went out there twice, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you were out there after the fact 2 different times
Yes.
and spoke with who?
The first time I spoke with Mr. Nick King, second time I speak with anybody.
Okay. And, but Officer Walls, you testified, had already been out there and talked to Nick King and took a report. Why did you need to go back out since Walls had already talked to Nick King once?
To to get a video of the area, since it's such a large area, it's kind of hard to put on paper just what happens. You better have it on video, so it's very necessary to see.
Okay, so if logic serves me, you're doing a follow-up to verify what Walls did to put things together. Why not, since he's already talked to my wife, as you alleged, why not go back and confirm what my wife said and put his equal effort into determining what's on this side of the fence as opposed to just what's in this little nice package? Why try to build a case on one side when you've got...
Again, I believe this is beyond the scope of the examination.
Objection, this is done.
No other efforts were made to contact Ms. Parsons.
No.
And at the day I called you, you refused to talk to me and advised to get an attorney, correct?
I didn't refuse to talk to you, sir.
You didn't. I recorded that conversation too. Did you record it?
Yes, sir.
How long were we on the phone? Less than a minute, right?
I wouldn't say that.
Less than 60 seconds. You were unwilling to talk and advised to get an attorney. Is that not correct?
I advise you to not make any statements. So I need to read your rights and ask you to come in to my office to give a statement.
You advised me not to make a statement, but then you advised me to come to your office and make a statement.
I said I told you I need to advise you of your rights. As you were telling me what you were admitting to me on the phone what had happened. I wanted you to come in so we could get a statement. You didn't come in.
And you had told us to call you when we found the dog, and yet you chose not to go out and look at the dog.
Yes.
Do you feel that if you would have seen the dog shot in the back, that that would have supported the claim that she was not a threat as you had been told? That she was nowhere near the man? That what they claimed was a lie? That he was provoked by nobody but on his own volition, crossed the street and pursued the dog on a hunt off his property? Did you weigh that when you're doing an investigation? A man is off his property, away from his safe haven. He pursued, went and got a gun in his house.
Objection to the argumentative nature of this. If it's a question.
What's piecing this together that
Again, ladies and gentlemen, questions, not evidence.
nothing further at this time, reserve the right to redirect.
All right, next witness.
Call Harry Laxton.
Your Honor, I'd like to remove this before he comes in quickly, please.
Raise your right hand, take the oath of witness, please. You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you give in this cause with the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Have a seat, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
State your name, please.
Barry D. Laxton,
And Mr. Laxton, where did you live in September of 2007?
653 Hughes Road.
And is that in Tipton County?
Yes, sir.
You know why you're here and have been here all
Yes,
day?
sir.
You've been subpoenaed about something that happened that night.
Yes, sir.
Now, what were you doing that afternoon of September the 24th?
I was mowing grass in my daughter's yard.
Okay. Now, have you previously been shown by Detective Nestle or others a large map, an aerial photograph of the area?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with that and the various
Yes.
locations? If I may show you, I can put it back on the easel now that it's been put down, what's previously been marked as an exhibit. And if we could just be pointed in the direction of the witness, just generally. Are you familiar with this map and what it depicts, this aerial photograph?
Yes, sir.
And what is that an aerial photograph of?
Of my neighbor's property and my property.
Your Honor, it may take the witness coming around. Can you operate one of these laser pointers? Or would that be helpful to you?
Yes, sir. I need to get a little closer to it.
I'd ask if Your Honor, the witness would come around in some fashion.
Shift it around where the jury can see.
Yes, and turn it around where the jury can see. What the bailiff is up to there. Now, Mr. Laxton, I know you're not familiar perhaps with positioning your body in such a court proceeding, but if you could try to get so the jury can see where you point to things as I ask you the question, all right?
All right.
Now, you say you were cutting your grass on whose property that day?
Right there on my daughter's property.
All right, and what is that address?
615.
Is that Hughes Road?
Yes, sir.
You were cutting the grass.
Yes, sir.
Did anything happen to cause you some concern or to make you stop cutting grass?
Yes, sir. I seen 4 wolves running over there in the pond.
All right, now you're pointing, I didn't ask you, but can you, and you may want to go to the other side of the board there, if you could. You observe what you call 4 wolves and 4 dogs on the other side of a pond.
Yes, sir.
And point that out where you saw it. All right. Now, whose pond was that property on?
That's on Mr. Burnett's.
Okay. Do you know or have you since met a person by the name of Nick King?
I know that.
Okay. And do you know what relation, if any, that Mr. Burnett you're referring to, whose property the pond is on, what connection he has to Nick King?
Alan, Mr. Burnett's Nick's father-in-law.
All right. Now, were you cutting grass when you saw these 4 wolves or wolf dogs at the pond?
Yes, sir.
Was anybody else at that property where you were cutting grass?
My 5-year-old daughter was playing out in the yard.
Your 5-year-old,
Granddaughter, I mean.
okay. Your 5-year-old granddaughter was at what property then?
Right there.
And is that the address where you were cutting the grass?
Yes, sir.
Well, what did you do when you saw these animals? Now, by your testimony, they're across the road at the time, weren't they? Okay, what did you do?
Well, when I got through cutting grass about 10 minutes later, and I went and took my lawnmower up, I got my .22 rifle, and I come back and there's another grandchild that was over here at Mr. Burnett's, and I didn't know whether it was out in the yard or not.
Now, dare you say, was that one of your grandchildren?
No, I said Mr. Burnett's grandchild.
All right. Now, how would you know that Mr. Burnett's grandchild was on that property of Mr. Burnett?
Because his wife was keeping him at the time during the week.
Okay, did you know that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, where did you have a .22?
It was in my house.
Okay, and it was what kind of a 22 weapon
It
was
was
it?
a 10-22 Ruger.
Okay, is that a long rifle, not a handgun?
Yeah, long rifle.
Okay, and what did you do with your 22 rifle at that point?
And proceeded to right there, and I fired some shots in the air to try to run them off.
Now, you say you tried to run them off. What's the them that you're trying to run off?
The wolves, 4 wolves.
How many?
4,
Okay. Where were you when you first fired shots to, in your words, run the 4 wolves off?
right there.
Okay. Was that your property?
Yes, sir. Where my daughter lives.
Okay. Well, what did the pack do when you fired these shots?
They came up on the edge of the water and then started going around here. And I moved over to here.
All right. Now, you're saying you moved over to there, and you pointed to a location on, it looks like the east side of the road. at this
On the
time.
levee, right.
Okay. Now, whose property did you move over to when you saw the pack move?
Right there in Mr. Burnett's.
You're on Mr. Burnett's property?
Right.
And at this point, where was the pack regarding you?
Well, they eventually left and went up through here after I fired some more shots.
Okay.
And went over into these woods.
All right. And describe the shots you were firing. First, did you fire any shots on your property on the west side of Hughes Road?
Yes, sir.
And
3 or 4.
3 or 4. And what sort of, how were you shooting if you just shot?
Right up there.
Okay. So when you're on your property, on I guess it looks like the west side of Hughes Road, you fired 3 or 4 shots into the air, right?
Yes, sir.
And at some point you went across Hughes Road to Mr. Burnett's property.
Right.
Is that right? At that point, were there still four in the pack?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you fire shots over Mr. Burnett's property?
I fired 2 or 3 more shots right there.
All right.
And the wolves ran up through here.
Now, could you show, but it might be easier just to show by moving your finger or just show the direction of where you were when you're firing the shots and the direction of the shots.
Right here.
Okay.
And I'm shooting straight up.
Okay. At that point, you're still shooting straight up in the air. Would you estimate how many shots you fired straight up in the air at that time?
4 or 5, maybe 6, I don't know, sure.
Okay. Well, what did the animals do when you fired those shots?
They went over and left and went through into this wooded area.
Now, you're pointing up to a wooded area there up to the north, right?
Yeah, right there.
Okay. Well, did any stay? Any wolves stay?
No, sir. Then I moved down to here.
All right, now you got a red light on what looks like a purple push pin. Now, you may not see that, but
Yeah, I see it.
But what is that location where the purple push pin is?
That's where I was standing when this 5th wolf come out of this field, come across here straight at me.
All right, now was this part of the original pack, or was this a?
I don't have any idea. I know I seen 4 in the original pack.
So
Where this one come from, I don't have a clue.
So you can't really testify if there were 5 or if that's
No,
one of the
sir, I
4.
can't.
Okay. So whether it's the 5th wolf or one of the original 4, there was one that was separate, correct?
All I can say is the 4 left and went up this way.
Okay. Now, where was the I'm going to say lone wolf so bad, but where was the wolf that was by himself when you first saw him?
He was coming across when Mr. King was standing over here.
Okay.
And he had hollered at me and told me, said, here comes another one coming straight for you.
All right. Now, you say Mr. King. Who is the Mr. King that yelled to you that there's another one coming? What's his name?
Nick,
Okay, did you know Nick before this day?
yes,
Okay. And how far was Nick from you when he yelled to you?
that's probably close to 100 yards at the most.
Okay, and whose property was Nick on when he yelled?
Even though Mr. Burnett's here at the hangar,
So he was at the hangar on his father-in-law's
Yes.
property. And whose property were you on, also Mr. Burnett's?
at that point, I was on my property.
Okay. So you had gotten back to, is that your property? Did you own?
One acre right here.
Okay. And that
It's yellow
one,
line.
so that 1 acre, which is, it looks like it's on Hughes Road, and just east of it is your 1 acre. Right?
Yes.
So the grass that you were cutting on the other side of the street was
It's over
whose
here.
property? Whose property is that?
At the time, it was my daughter, but since then I have bought it.
Okay. But at the time, it was your daughter's and you were cutting
Right.
grass.
I was cutting her grass.
Right. Now, getting back to your 1 acre there east of Hughes, when you first saw a wolf, what did you notice about that first?
The long one,
Yes, the one that was alone.
all I noticed was he was coming running as fast as he could.
Okay. And was he running in your direction?
Straight for me.
And how far away was he, if you could guess, when you first noticed that he was running straight for you?
And when he come across this, there's a driveway here.
Okay.
And when they come across that driveway, there's a little distance between the driveway and that ditch.
Okay, but how far, if you would guess, I don't know if you're good at distances, but how far away was he when you first saw him running, what you perceived to be towards you?
Maybe 75 yards.
Okay.
Because he come out of some kind of tall grass, not real tall.
Now, you had a .22 long rifle. There's been some testimony about the clip. How many rounds did the clip hold, the magazine?
I think it holds 30, either 29 or 30, I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you know how many of those rounds you had fired up into the air at various locations before that?
No, sir, when I looked at it when I walked down through here, and I seen about 3 or 4 rounds left in the clip. And that's all I know.
Okay. So you thought at least you had 3 or 4 rounds left?
Right. And one in the barrel.
Okay. Well, did you fire any more warning shots at the animal?
I fired 3 right here, and his feet, and it never slowed down.
Now, did you shoot intentionally at his feet?
And his feet, yes, sir.
That is, did you shoot
I
at
put
that
3
point?
shots in front of him.
At that point, were you shooting to kill the animal?
No, sir.
And what was the effect that you're firing, as you say, at the feet of this charging wolf? What effect did that have on the animal?
And he kept coming.
Okay, now, where was Nick King when this was going on?
Nick was still over here at the hangar.
Was he in a position to have seen this?
Yes, sir, he should have been able to see it.
That is, there was nothing obstructing his view like a wooded area or a
No,
building?
no, it's only grass right here.
Okay. Well, what did you do when you fired the several shots at the charging wolf's feet? What did you, and he didn't veer off the path, what'd you do then?
I took action to protect myself.
Okay. And what action did you take?
I shot him.
Okay. Have you ever shot as a hunter an animal before?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know whether or not you hit this
I
animal?
heard one shot hit him.
Now, when you say you heard one shot hit him, are you talking about the report or the firing of the bullet?
No, sir, I'm talking about the splat that you get when you hit, and then,
Now, Mr. Laxton, I've been talking kind of loud to you. Is that right?
yeah,
Are you somewhat hard of hearing?
yes, sir.
All right. But you were close enough to hear the splat of the bullet
Yes.
in the animal.
Probably 45 yards, maybe 50 at the most.
Okay, but you heard that.
Yes, sir.
Now, do you know if you shot him more than once?
No, sir, I don't know.
Did you see what the animal did once you felt like he shot him?
Turned and ran back in this direction,
Okay.
over here.
You may want to show that again, Mr. Parsons wants to see. You point to the middle of the property. And do you know whose property all that is around the 1 acre? So,
This is, Mr. Burnett's.
okay. And did you know at that time, or have you since learned where Mr. Mike Parsons lives?
As far as I know, he lives over here.
All right, and you're pointing up to a structure there with a long driveway.
Yes, sir.
Now, at any time when you were shooting in the air at the pack of wolves, when you were across the road from Hughes Road, or at any time when you were on your 1 acre property east of Hughes Road, did you ever see the defendant Mike Parsons?
No, sir.
When did you first see Mr. Parsons?
After I had gone over to the hangar, he came down this area here.
Okay. And how long, or was it before or after you shot the wolf that you first saw Mr. Parsons?
It was after.
Now, were any of the shots which you were firing at the charging wolf in the direction of Mr. Parsons or his house or any inhabited house or any individual at all?
No, sir.
Did you have a clear shot at the animal?
Yes, sir.
Did you hit the animal when you meant to hit it?
Well, I did 3 warning shots. Yes, sir. I hit him at least 1 time.
Okay. Now, what did you observe about Mr. Parsons when you first saw him?
Notice, when I first saw him, he was coming down to a cover that's right here to cross this ditch.
Okay.
And I noticed he had a gun hanging down by his side in his hand.
All right. How was he proceeding? Was he proceeding in your direction?
Oh, yes, sir. He came straight over to us.
Okay. Now, you say came over to us. Who was there at that time?
Nick King and myself.
And how far were you from Nick King when you first saw Mr. Parsons?
Standing right beside him, maybe 2 or 3 feet.
Okay. And how far would you estimate it was Mr. Parsons was when you first saw him?
Ooh, probably 100 yards or so. Because it was getting dusk dark.
Did Mr. Parsons say or yell or signal anything to you when you first saw him?
Not that I heard.
Did you have your .22 rifle on you when you first saw him?
No, sir. I had put it in the back of Nick King's pickup truck.
Now, why would you put your .22 rifle in the back of a pickup truck if you saw a man coming to you with a handgun?
I actually thought it was empty.
You thought your .22 was empty?
Yes, sir.
Do you know upon reflection whether it was or not, looking back?
No, sir, I don't know. I just laid it in the back of this truck because I thought it was empty.
All right. In any event, your thought was that it was empty. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
right? All right. As far as I'm concerned, you can go back to the witness stand for now, Mr. Rice. Did you finally hear, or did you ever hear Mr. Parsons say anything to you?
Yes, sir.
And what did you hear him say?
He told us to get on the ground. We were under citizen's arrest.
Where was the handgun when he said this?
On his right to us,
Now, by us, you mean who?
Nick King and myself.
And Nick King was how far from you when he was pointing the gun?
He was standing beside me,
And how far was Mike Parsons from you when he first pointed the gun?
maybe 3 or 4 feet.
Well, how did that make you feel to have a handgun pointed at you?
It's pretty scary.
Now, where was it pointed at you? That is, if you could indicate as best you can by just holding up your hand, how was it pointed? You pointed it at your upper chest or your
Yes,
neck?
sir.
Okay. Well, what was Mr. Parsons saying when he was pointing this handgun at you?
He was ranting and raving about where his other dogs were, and he was making a citizen's arrest, told us to get on the ground.
Now, you have testified that you shot warning shots and in fact shot, and as far as you knew, killed a wolf. Did Nick King ever fire a gun?
No, sir.
At that point, did you know that Nick King had a gun?
Yes, sir.
At what point did you, Barry Laxton, know that Nick King had a gun?
When he went and got it out of his pickup and put it in his pocket.
All right, now, at what point did you see Nick King go, I guess, to Nick King's pickup truck?
Yes.
All right. At what time did you see him relative to Mr. Parsons coming? When did Nick King go get the handgun?
Before Parsons got up there to us.
Okay. Was he, could you see Mr. Parsons coming?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you see that he had a handgun?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what did you have testified about what you observed Mike Parsons say and do to you? Did you see him say or do anything to Nick King?
He was pointing the gun back and forth between the two of us.
Well, when he was pointing that gun at you, were you free to leave?
Sir?
When he pointed that gun at you, were you, Barry Laxton, free to leave?
No, sir.
Did you see Mr. Parsons do anything regarding Nick King's pickup truck?
He went in and got Nick's holster and got my rifle out of the back.
What did you see him, Mr. Parsons, do with either the holster or your .22?
When he left, he took both of them with him.
Now, did you observe Nick King take any action to contact anybody?
Nick King called 911.
Now, at what point did you observe this?
Yes, sir.
At what point did you observe Nick King call 911? What was happening at that point?
He was still holding a gun on me. Nick was kind of standing off to one side at that time.
And did you see where Nick King got the, I assume a cell phone? Did you see where Nick King got the cell phone he made the call on?
I just seen it in his hand.
Did you hear him make a call?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Parsons in a position to hear Nick King make a call?
He should have.
All right. Have you since heard what purports to be a recording of this event, that is, Mr. Parsons' interaction with you and Nick King and the gun? Have you heard a recording of that?
Yes, sir.
And is that an accurate recording of what he said, what you said?
As far as I can tell, it is.
Okay. Now, some of that would have happened, would it not, when you were not around? Some of it.
Right.
So I'm talking about the recording that depicts what Nick King says and what you may have said and what Mike Parsons said.
Yes.
Would you agree that that is an accurate recording?
Very accurate, yes, sir.
Of course, it's not a video, it's just an audio of what was heard, right? How close was the handgun that Mike Parsons pointed at you?
Well, I don't know exactly. I can tell you he was close enough that I took out my cell phone and tried down 911 on it, and he didn't grab my hand with his other hand, trying to take my cell phone away from me.
So he was within arm's
Yes,
length
sir.
of you. Did he have the handgun at that time?
Yes, sir.
And where was the handgun when Mr. Parsons was holding your hand, which had the cell phone?
Well, he just reached out and grabbed at it, but it was in the air, pointed at us.
Is there a photograph of the handgun? It may have been put back in evidence, but the handgun. No, Let's see if I can do it. Would you recognize this handgun, you think, if you saw it again?
Sir, all handguns look alike to me.
Well, you know what a handgun is.
Yes, sir, I don't own one, but I know what one is.
Well, describe the handgun that was pointed at you in a general sort of
It looked like an automatic, and as far as I know, it looked like a 40 caliber.
Did it look like something capable of inflicting death or serious bodily injury if fired
Yes,
from
sir.
the distance it was from you? Did it?
Yes, sir.
And how did that make you feel?
Terrified.
Now, can you point out in court today the person that has been described as Mike or Michael W. Parsons? Can you point him out?
Something wrong with that?
The record will reflect the witnesses identified the defendant Michael W. Parsons. At some point, did you ever get your .22 caliber rifle back from law enforcement or anywhere
No,
else?
sir. I've been waiting over 2 years to get it back.
All right.
Excuse me.
Now, did you ever learn later whether, in fact, Mr. Burnett's granddaughter was on Mr. Burnett's property?
At that particular time, she was keeping him pretty well all week long.
Okay. Well, later did you determine whether or not, or did you just think she was in?
He was at the house, and whether he was outside or not, I do not know.
What about your granddaughter across the street? Was she in fact there when you were cutting grass?
After I fired the first shots, I told her to go down to my house and go inside with her grandmother.
She was on the premises when it all started.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me show you what's previously been made, Exhibit 1 to this hearing, and ask, if you can, identify it.
Like I said, all handguns look alike.
Is that similar to what was?
Similar, yes, sir.
Now,
Could be the one, I don't know.
it was something equally real looking though, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, I'm not that uneducated. I know what guns are.
You're a hunter.
Yes, sir.
May not hunt with handguns, but
I don't like handguns.
Now, you have testified that Mr. Parsons told you and told Mr. King to get down or get on the ground or something like that.
Yes, sir.
And you've heard a recording which
Yes.
backs that up, right? What did you do when he pointed the gun? Did he start to count or do anything of that nature?
He started to count. He said, if you're not on the ground, until I count to 5, I'm going to shoot you. And that's what he said.
What did you do?
I guess I got on the knees because I can't remember. I had a stroke, and some things are just not clear.
Okay. You've had a stroke since this.
Yes, in March, this past March.
Is that in any way affected what you're telling the jury that you're sure of happened that day?
Those are just a very few things that's not clear to me.
Are you sure that Mike Parsons pointed a handgun
Yes, sir.
at
I'll
you?
never forget that.
Are you sure that you weren't free to go when he pointed that handgun?
No, sir, I was not.
Are you certain that that wolf was charging you and
Yes, sir.
injuring you at the time?
Object, leading.
Big smart.
Objection, Your Honor, leading the witness.
Objection, Bill.
Are you certain of all of those facts that you
Yes,
are
sir.
telling the jury today? That's all.
Parsons.
Good evening, Mr. Laxton. Were you telling the truth tonight?
You'll have to speak up. I can't hear you.
Were you telling the truth tonight when you testified?
I still can't hear you.
There's a microphone right there that amplifies the voice.
Could I move the push pin
Yes.
thing, please?
The button, get that out of the way.
Okay, is this any better, Mr. Laxton?
Better than you were.
Okay. Tonight, when you testified in court, were you telling the truth?
Yes, sir.
And you spoke the whole truth?
Yes, sir.